Okay. Oh, good. Let me just get that done. Okay, perfect. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me today on your lunch breaks. And I hope you're enjoying the Sustainable Buildings Week so far. I'm really honored to share with you all today about the part that DPR is playing in sustainable construction and our alignment with an industry framework known as the Contractors Commitment. Hold on, my chat is, there we go, that's better, sorry. Okay, so yeah, today we will talk about Contractors Commitment Framework. We will do a deep dive into the 5 categories that make up this framework, which is carbon reduction, job site wellness, waste management, water management, and material selection. And then throughout at each of these categories, I will kind of share with you what DPR has been doing with our own sustainability best practices for our offices and our job sites. And then I would also like to kind of discuss next steps and the ask of all of you in order, in your own work and on your own projects in implementing some of these management practices. So first, just to introduce myself, my name is Celia Hogue. If you don't know me already, I am the Southwest Regional Sustainability Leader at DPR. I joined DPR only last year, and prior had worked on the consultancy side actually for the last 15 years, working as a consultant, helping building owners, developers, and design teams achieve their sustainability goals. A fun fact is that I worked as a sustainability consultant for KEMA, actually, which was the sustainability consultant on DPR San Diego office, Phoenix and Newport offices. So it's really kind of a full circle moment to be now sitting in the San Diego office working for DPR. Outside of my work, I have a 3-year-old son named Mikey who keeps me extremely busy. It's a really fun, but also extremely challenging age. But I obviously love it and every minute of it. And I kind of love this question. I love hearing from others, like living in this COVID-19 era, about your favorite pandemic purchase. And so if you'd like, you could drop it in the chat and share with others, because I just find it pretty interesting to hear how others kind of both survived, the last 2 years, both physically and mentally. And so my favorite pandemic purchase was an electric e-bike. My son and I go on all types of adventures around town, and I love that it is electric because I'm, riding with 40 pounds on the back and live in Mission Hills. So it certainly helps me get up those hills with my son. Okay, so DPR has a mission 2030, and we are targeting 2030 as the year to really achieve some of that, not only corporate goals, but also sustainability goals when it comes to kind of building a healthier environment for people and the planet. We are committed to creating a more sustainable work and built environment. We are revolutionizing how we operate in our offices, travel to our job sites, travel to our destinations, build on our job sites, and influence our customers. We are part of the Sustainable Construction Leaders Network, which is a Building Green supported peer network, and have helped develop the Contractors Commitment, which is what we're going to go over today. So I'm going to talk about each of these 5 categories that you see listed there and what is expected in terms of that commitment and how to prioritize these sustainable management practices. And as we go through kind of each of these categories, I will address those 3 tiers, but basically that's how these practices have been organized to allow for whoever wants to apply these, have this progression in terms of improvement in performance. So really kind of have these incremental milestones in order to achieve the end game. So for the first category, carbon, the focus here is really the emission from construction equipment during the building construction phase. So now I'd like to actually throw a pop quiz at you all and ask to answer the following question. So let me just share the first poll here. So hopefully you should see a poll or question asked in front of you. What percentage of annual global carbon dioxide emissions come from building materials and construction? I'll wait a few more seconds now. Okay, looks like we all got the answer. Okay, so I see some 40% and some 11%. The actual correct answer there is 11%. So 40% of our global annual carbon dioxide emissions come from buildings, but 11% of that 40 is from building materials and construction, and the 28% from building operations. And so it's not an insignificant percentage at all, and why we really need to focus on building materials and construction and the carbon and our emissions during that phase, as well as during building operations. So this next slide shows the framework for the carbon category. Okay, and so there's a lot of information here, but as I mentioned earlier, there are these good, better, and best tiers, which really are your tiered approach to applying these management practices in that category. And then on the kind of horizontal, or you could also say kind of the y-axis, there's these sections as well of how they're organized. So they address kind of the plan and implement, track and reduce, offsetting, and disclosure. So on the planning and implementing section, there is a progressive approach to reducing embodied carbon and direct carbon emissions from construction equipment. So from starting with an anti-idling plan, all the way through to only using tier 4 engine equipment. In this middle branch of the plan and implement, you see that EC3 is software is specified for material selection, which does this deep dive into embodied carbon of the materials we use to build our buildings. Under track and reduce, you have your 3 scope emissions identified: direct emissions, purchased emissions, and indirect emissions. And so under scope 1 for the general contractor, it's looking at your mobile and stationary sources of emissions and reducing these in your construction equipment on the job site. Under scope 2 is your purchase utilities for our offices and reducing emissions there, and then moving into the purchase utilities on the job site and what the temporary power sources are. And then for scope 3, it's all about commuting to our job sites. and the emissions that are offsetted during those commutes, as well as the emitted during those commutes, as well as corporate travel policies for employees for air travel, etc. And so the next section is actually looking at offsetting opportunities. And so starting at just looking at what you can do for scope 1, and then moving to the best management practices of offsetting all 3 scope emissions. And then last but not least, it's disclosing this information so that we can continue to kind of drive market transformation and educate the industry, as well as hold ourselves as general contractors accountable and walking the talk, right? We want to definitely show that we practice what we preach. So we are proud at DPR what we have done with our own offices, and achieving kind of high performance design through our living labs is what we refer to these our portfolio as. And these 4 offices that are on the screen were really leaders of their time, and what we like to refer to as the OGs when it comes to our living labs, and certainly kind of setting the bar when it comes to sustainable design and construction. Not only have all 4 of these offices achieved net zero on site, but through adaptive reuse have combined passive and active sustainability strategies to also achieve at least 1 certification through the Living Building Challenge, LEED, or WELL Building certifications. And actually the closing happy hour for Sustainable Buildings Week this Friday will be hosted here at the San Diego DPR office. So if you haven't seen our office already or haven't taken a tour of the space, I really invite you to do that during that event. So I wanted to just look at a couple of our newer offices that have just come online and joined our Living Labs portfolio. In our DPR Sacramento office that opened in 2019, we really tried to address embodied carbon in our building materials. And we did this through the addition of a 6,000 square feet mass timber to the building, which was using cross-laminated timber paneling or structure, and is the first shear application in the state and also the first CLT structure in the city. The building itself is also targeting net positive energy, LEED Platinum and WELL certifications. The energy efficiency strategies incorporated will reduce the actual energy load by 45%. And then the solar panel on site is actually projected to yield 107% of that on-site energy. So looking at being net positive there once our performance period of measurement verification has been completed. So the benefits of using mass timber with this building and in construction is really it takes less energy to produce, it sequesters carbon, and also is low embodied carbon over the life cycle of the building as a result. There's actually a really great video, a YouTube video showing how these mass timber panels were put together for the Sacramento office that is available on YouTube. And I invite you all to take a look at that in your own time. It's really fascinating to see how it's all put together and the constructability of it. Our newest living lab is actually in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. And it actually just opened this week. The total building square footage is 100,000 square feet. It's targeting zero energy performance through a combination of passive and active strategies. And it includes both a 35,000 square foot office space and then also warehouse space. So we have really high ceilings where we've really tried to take advantage of the natural daylight opportunities there through solar tubes, through reflective ceiling panels that also allow for improve the acoustics in the space. We also have a 680 kilowatt solar array on the rooftop. This building also incorporates and focuses on promoting kind of occupant health and wellness. It's looking at achieving a WELL certification as well as LEED and zero energy. And I'll talk about more of kind of the amenity spaces that we try to incorporate in our buildings. But this, when I talk about job site wellness, but this building in particular has a yoga room, a fitness room, as well as a play area, in order to kind of really, promote this occupant enjoyment as well, and overall wellness in terms of their experience in the space. We take a step further in how we track and analyze with what is going on in our offices. This platform here not only tracks energy, but also water consumption, any renewable energy that's produced on site. And we also are able to, through our sub-meters, track kind of individual data points for our end uses, such as lighting, HVAC, and receptacle load for each of our offices in our portfolio. And this is extremely helpful when we're going through the measurement and verification process, and also allows us the capability to employ retro-commissioning measures in our existing offices if we do get off track at all with our performance. So it allows for some course correction there, which is really crucial when you're looking at kind of the operation side of the building. We also have dashboards in our offices for educational purposes so that our employees and visitors can understand how the building operates, and how the different components and systems interact and impact that, and the impact that like an individual has on the total building energy consumption. It's been proven time and time again that knowledge is power. And so providing this level of transparency to the occupants on energy consumption is really crucial in order to get their participation, right? And to have their buy-in in terms of lowering energy and ultimately our carbon footprint. So the next category is job site wellness. And here, the category specifically addresses the wellness for laborers, as well as those working in the job site offices or trailers. And when it comes to workplace wellness, what is most important to you? And I'd like to kind of see what you all think in the next slide. I'm going to launch my second poll. So when it comes to your health and your wellness in the workplace, looking at these five, like what would you think is the most important? So let me just launch this poll. Indoor air quality, fitness, mental health. Okay, let's end that and share results. So we're seeing kind of indoor air quality and mental health as being kind of the two most important there. Severe weather exposure, probably less so, right, for us who work inside, but obviously we see the importance, and I'll talk about that in a minute about for our field workers. So if there is one positive outcome from COVID-19, it is this renewed emphasis and importance placed on occupants' health and wellness in the workplace, and the impact it can have on the owner's bottom line. Occupants don't want to return to buildings if they're not enhancing and promoting this. And I really liked Rachel Hodgson's quote there. She's the president of the International Well Building Institute. If there's anything the last 2 years have taught us, it's that how an organization treats its employees really has a profound impact on its bottom line. So in this next category of job site wellness, it's kind of divided into these 5 subcategories, which are air, nourishment, fitness, mental wellness, and severe weather exposure. And so regarding air, we're talking about air quality. and implementing measures such as prohibiting smoking, cleaning protocols, air quality management programs, and filter maintenance. When we talk about nourishment, we're talking about encouraging healthy food decisions and also quality access to quality water for like all our occupants. And whether that's through signage in our offices or on our job sites, making sure that they make these responsible decisions when it comes to healthy diet and options. Regarding the fitness category, it looks at ergonomic messaging for our admin offices, and at DPR that includes kind of variable height workstations, as well as daily stretch and flex sessions for our craft in the field. Now, looking at mental wellness, it is really important for the construction industry. And there are some really startling statistics out there regarding kind of mental health. 40% of the US adults reported struggling with mental health or substance abuse, with 11% of them seriously considering suicide. And the suicide rate in construction for men is almost double the rate for civilian men. And the suicide rate in construction is 5 times greater than the rate for all other fatal work-related injuries. And so these numbers are quite startling. And on the next screen, I will share some resources that we offer at DPR to help employees with their mental health. Finally, the severe weather exposure category is equally as important here, especially with our excessive heat exposure down here in Southern California. And this is only going to, increase, right? Events like extreme weather events, such as these excessive heat waves that we saw just in the Pacific Northwest last year. And they're going to be more frequent and devastating. So the framework here encourages sun heat exposure education campaigns, providing shade for breaks, lunches on the job sites, hydration, and sunscreen promotion. And it's really kind of about, for us at DPR, emergency preparedness and really putting these adaptive measures in place now for the future. So we have a number of resources that we offer our employees that really drive our organizational culture, strategy, and the contractor's commitment reporting. So first up here is our indoor air quality plan. And this is like a template that our project teams can customize to suit their project needs. And this plan details your IAQ best practices, which include pre-testing approach, early trade partner inclusion, your design testing schedule, and your day off flush requirements. We also provide a number of different mental health programs and resources. For example, direct talk and text therapy services. During COVID, we started a financial assistance and benefits program for our employees in need. And being a contractor, safety is really a core part of our business practices and operation. It is really integrated early into our planning process to maintain a high level of safety standard, quality, and schedule, and making sure that all our teams and trade partners feel connected and supported. We also have, as I mentioned earlier, these daily stretch and flex scheduled exercises actually scheduled into our crafts daily schedules, really so they can prioritize these on our job sites with the manual labor that they do kind of all day long. And finally, as we build out our living lab portfolio, we really understand the importance of both combining, building science and medical science to really create this measurable, healthy environment. And so books like The Healthy Workplace Nudge really provides examples of how organizations can accomplish this. And as we know, wellness is really everywhere, and it's being promoted and required in a number of different green building rating systems that are there on the screen. This measurable healthy workplace is really what, as I mentioned earlier, kind of what occupants are looking for when they return to our commercial spaces. and really how we design our own living labs at DPR with that priority in mind. Okay, so in the next category, waste management, it's something that we really are striving to improve in every component of our building process. Like working in construction, we contribute to a lot of waste through the construction and demolition process. By 2030, DPR is striving for a zero waste culture, which is diverting 95% of our waste generated during construction and demolition from the landfill. We are already doing it from some of our clients, and now I'd like to share this short video about our GTM project and what our team there has been doing in order to achieve the 95% diversion rate.
Hi everybody, here we are at GTN. Historically, construction waste has been a big problem because a lot of the materials end up going to a landfill. But here on our site, we're really fortunate to work with a really great group of people and have a partnership with a really wonderful local hauler to take most of our materials to be actually recycled instead of going into a landfill. From the beginning of this project, we worked directly with the owner to come up with a really aggressive recycling plan. We have two different types of waste streams for construction and demolition debris. The first type is our construction and demolition waste stream, which is building materials such as concrete, metal, wood, etc. The second type of waste stream is our post-consumer trash and recycling, which are things like cans, bottles, office paper, cardboard, anything taken from an eating area or our office trailers. Both types of waste streams are measured and recorded, but they're handled a little bit differently. Each dumpster has a sign that lists the materials that can go inside. There's also a sign that indicates that there are no food waste allowed in these dumpsters. All of the signs are in two languages, in English and Spanish. We work directly with our haulers to make sure the materials are funneled to the appropriate dumpster. Some materials can be combined together, such as cardboard and wood, where other materials need to be source separated, like concrete and metal. This is determined by where the materials end up going and how they're being reused in the future.
Once the material leaves our site, it is taken back to their facility where it is weighed and manually sorted. The recycled materials are either then used at that facility or they're taken to another facility for reuse. The wood taken from our site is used to create a byproduct through the process of downdraft gasification. The byproduct is a biochar, which is a carbon-rich element. This material is used by farmers to amend their soils. There are both trash cans and recycling bins throughout our facility. They are close to our walk paths, our break areas, our hydration stations, our trailers, and our work sites. All of our recycling bags are then taken to our construction and demolition dumpsters, which are then sent through the same process as our C&D materials. We are actively trying to reduce the amount of material taken to landfill by emphasizing importance of recycling on our facility and the use of signs and training.
So as trade partners are brought onto our site, we have an onboarding session where we go over the different rules and regulations that govern our site. Part of this onboarding session is a whole section dedicated to recycling and the importance of making sure the materials are separated correctly and that materials are disposed of in the correct manner. We have a written document called our Waste Management Plan, which is a formal document that basically summarizes the whole plan on site of how we dispose of materials. This document is saved on our system so that anyone with access to our project files can access the plan and understand what we're trying to achieve.
So when it comes to the management practices in this framework, a lot were already covered in that video. But looking at a tiered approach here from kind of good management practices all through to best management practices, which is to achieve this zero waste culture and 95% diversion from the landfill. And so as Jennifer in the video mentioned, like planning for this is really crucial component in order to make sure that everyone involved on the job site understands the goal. We have resources in place that help our project teams with this, which includes a construction and demolition waste management plan that can be customized on each of our each project. And this is really kind of critical piece to sit down with all your key stakeholders, right, and achieving your waste goal. And that would be your haulers, your job site teams, your trade partners. And so this plan can also, you might be familiar with, is required for LEED. A version of it is required for our REACH code, Cal Green. And so we try to get every project to at least fill out this plan, regardless of what the actual kind of diversion goal is on their project. The site plan will include a dumpster location map where these waste management stations that were talked about in the video are identified, and making sure that the signage for those is clear and bilingual for these single source and mixed source waste streams on site. And it's really important that this signage is there in order for us to have the support and cooperation from our trade partners and job site teams to know what material goes into what dumpster and the impact that it has on the back end, which provides kind of this behavioral change, right? And really starts to kind of gain their participation and cooperation on site. And so talking about education, we've started to put kind of a lot of emphasis on the importance of not only including, you know, the training and education on the waste management strategies on site at the onboarding, you know, meeting, which is a kickoff meeting for the construction phase, but also continually through our toolbox talks, which occur on a monthly basis. And really wanted to kind of drive this behavior change and through this education and making sure they're all aware kind of like of why we're doing this in the first place and why we're trying to divert from the landfill. What we have found is that most people actually want to do the right thing on site. They just don't know exactly what that is. So that's also kind of a critical piece here is to make sure they have that education. And that the signage is there to kind of clearly identify what the requirements are. So as part of the contractor's commitment, there's also an annual reporting tool for waste. And this is where we can consolidate our numbers on the individual projects and report out as a company. And again, this is like the accountability, right? And making sure that we actually walk the talk. So this is something we're going to do in the next couple of years, is to really start to kind of report out on our waste as a company, because it has really such a huge impact in all of our operations. So water management is another priority when it comes to our sustainability commitment. And it is something we so easily, I think, take for granted here. And certainly being from Australia, which I'm not sure if you all knew, but I actually grew up in Australia. I understand kind of the importance of water conservation, as certainly being kind of surrounded by water down there. And I really like this quote from Maud Barlow, the chairperson at the Council of Canadians. We need a new water ethic that puts water at the center of all policy and everything we do. We must always ask the question, like, what is the impact of this policy or practice on water? If it is negative, we must drop it or amend it accordingly. Water is not a resource for our convenience and profit, but the essential element in living ecosystem upon which we all depend. So within the framework of this category, we look at kind of water waste in terms of pollution risks and quality. We look at kind of implementing these best practices to make sure that everyone on site not only has access to quality drinking water, but also the project itself is focused on conserving where possible. A lot of construction processes are water intensive, so it's about really being conscious of that and reducing where possible. There's also a lot of innovation that is currently occurring in this space for the industry. So we're really, as a contractor, looking to pilot several of these initiatives on our projects to really help with market transformation and drive industry change. I did want to share the following about our reclamation center that we have installed on the East Coast in one of our projects. So at this project in Virginia, it's a concrete washout reclamation center, and they're claiming the wastewater from the concrete truck and equipment washout on site, treating it, and then reusing this for dust control. So 13,500 gallons of recycled water is reused in one day through this system. That's 2 million gallons estimated of water to be saved over the life of the project. This is also paired with rainwater capture and treatment, and there is absolutely no potable water used during this process. So we're really proud of this and really hope to roll this out on more projects in order to kind of be more conscious and prioritize water management during construction. Okay, materials. This is another huge category, right? And talking about sustainable material selection. And at DPR, we firmly believe that recycling should be our last resort in sustainable, and it's about sustainable material use. So first we want to reduce, then we reuse, and finally recycle. So our last quiz of the day. The plastics are the largest, most harmful, and most persistent fraction of marine litter. And what percentage do you think of the total marine waste do you think plastics make up? While you're answering, I check. We've got very knowledgeable people today on plastics. I'm going to end this poll. So those who guessed 85% are correct. 85% of the total marine waste is due to plastic waste. And as a contractor, we obviously have a lot to do with this, and something we're very focused on within this framework and implementing kind of some management practices on the material side of things to kind of make more sustainable and responsible decisions. So each contractor has really asked to develop healthy and sustainable materials policy. And if we continue to kind of drive transparency to materials we are selecting, we will have kind of better visibility in how they are made and the type of impact that they have on the environment and human health. And so it's really important for us to not only educate everyone on this, but also track our progress along the way, making sure we have HBDs, EPDs with all the data available to kind of do that full analysis. And we see that as being critical in the selection of responsible building materials. So at DPR, we do have educational materials, both internally and externally. We're really excited to talk about, the mass timber, and I just shared earlier about the Sacramento office there. So that building, that addition, which is 6,000 square feet, that CLT application is used in that project, sequesters 55 metrics of carbon dioxide, which is equal to taking 33 cars off the road. And so imagining if that's kind of applied at a greater scale to our world building stock, that's equal to 70 million cars. So it really can have a huge impact. And so we're really making sure we can drive, having tools and resources to kind of dive into the material analytics, which is critical to success here. So on top of using programs like EC3, we also use a platform called Ecomedes that can provide this research for you for over 700,000 products and materials. We also use Green Badger as a platform to track our performance when it comes to materials and compliance with certifications, which also includes waste management and indoor air quality. So overall, now that we've kind of gone through each of these categories, I wanted to talk about and share how we've applied this contractor's commitment framework with our own sustainability best practices for job sites and offices. And so we've developed these best practices that project teams can use and apply for their projects. They include this good, better, best tier in each of those categories so that you could kind of see what is, the management practices or the best management practices that are necessary in order to achieve each of the performances in that category. And so here's just another slide showing kind of the breakdown of each of those kind of subcategories there and the different components. And so it's almost like kind of a playbook that you can apply and work through with different tasks, et cetera, and resources in order to kind of be able to implement and successfully on your project. And so our pathway here for success, we start with kind of our Mission 2030 alignment, right? And our overarching goals necessary to kind of be the most admired and our path to regeneration. And so that is our vision. We've then aligned kind of this contractor's commitment framework and what our best practices are trying to achieve. And that's our strategy. And then our tactics on how we get there are our best practices. And that they are these detailed guides and what to share with what our people can do to help. And it's not just for us to use internally. We plan to use externally on our projects and help our design partners and owners with making these decisions. So how can you use the contractor's commitment to advance sustainability if you are not a contractor? I think the first step would be ask if your contractor has heard of it. And what we would love to see really is that, we have our trade partners participate and kind of use this framework so we can share knowledge and ideas and kind of raise the bar for innovation and emerging technology. So you can ask your contractors to follow some of the measures or recommend, kind of one of the tiers of the good, better, best. Just kind of start somewhere in the framework to really help drive those decisions early on in the project. And we obviously have to work together as an industry, right, to be successful in this and hold ourselves accountable for the impact we have on the planet as contractors and continue to do better where we can. So next steps would be asking contractors to consider signing on. If they are interested, you can include them in your RFPs, include them in your specifications, really kind of help push the envelope here when it comes to really driving industry change and as I said, minimizing the impact that we have on the built environment. So how to participate? You can download the contractor's commitment guide there. There's a reporting template that you can download and start to use today. There's a mailing list that you can join, and it's a pretty active list. You can get involved and receive the updates from that community. And then send feedback to the Sustainable Construction Leaders Network. And so Candace's email there is on the screen. And also just feedback to myself at DPR. I would love to hear how the industry kind of and the local community here and what you have to say in terms of some of the challenges or barriers to implementation or some successes on your project. And so now that's the end of my formal presentation. I'd like to open it up to any questions. They're in the chat. Let me check that. See any of you guys. Okay, hi Colleen. Hi Colleen. Okay, are you finding haulers in most cities DPR works that have diversion facilities that can help meet your diversion rates, or are you relying on outside providers? Really great question. I would say it's a mix of both. It's definitely varies per region too. I think City of San Diego, right, they have a commingled recycling diversion rate that it all goes to, collected through the commingled site method on site and goes to this facility to be sorted. But there are kind of individual waste streams that we could separate out on site and work with kind of local vendors there. And they do typically will have higher diversion rates. So if you're looking to achieve kind of zero waste, you definitely want to look at source separating your waste on site, rather than going through a commingled facility that has a set diversion rate. And so it's a little bit of both, and we really think that's going to grow. And as I said, it does vary based on like the region. In Arizona, kind of more of a feasibility analysis has had to be done in order to kind of see what local like scrap yards are available to take metal, et cetera. But I think as the industry moves in this direction, we're going to see more and more opportunities for source separating and working with local haulers. How is the concrete washout wastewater handled on most of the job sites? It's taken off, removed, and I actually don't really know. I think it goes down the sewer waste stream. I know it can't go on site down now sewer, but I think that's what typically is done. I don't know if anyone else has input on that. So it's usually, I know it has to be taken off site because it can be quite toxic. So I think the fact that we have this reclamation center and we're really hoping to do it at more job sites can really help with reducing that wastewater. Are there any other questions here? Thanks, John. Do you want to answer that, John?
Oh, I didn't realize I was unmuted. I put a challenging question for Celia in the chat about emissions, and I would say DPR is working to get a hold of all of our emissions for all of our projects. We have internal and external consultants that we use. Celia and I have been recently brought on to DPR to help facilitate that, but it is an enormous task, and not every owner is seeking to get this information. Yeah. But we're trying to make it a standard operating procedure. And so how we do that and where do we engage with our team in the pre-construction process to get that analysis done? What tools are we using? What software are we using? We're still trying to seek this out. And so I was curious on her perspective specifically, because we're working in different regions, but we're on the same team. But we're actively working towards finding and quantifying our emissions and greenhouse gas impact in all of our projects.
Yeah. And I would say, just to add to just specifically with construction equipment and kind of decarbonizing and electrifying, I guess, our construction equipment and fleet, that is something that we're definitely, we have, we're working on a national level, right, on what that looks like. And some of it is, is the technology there and available. Electric construction equipment is more available in Europe than it is in the States, or at least there's a cost, a barrier there for us in the States. And so we actually do have an office and projects in Europe. And so we're looking to pilot technologies like that so that we can then roll out here in the States as well in the next few years. But it's not an easy task at all, and we're aware of that, but we're really trying to, hold ourselves accountable for the emissions during the construction phase.
Yeah, thanks for that, Celia.
Okay, no other questions?
Can I throw a small plug in for our happy hour here on Friday?
Oh yeah, do it. Well, I did at the beginning, but I don't know if you were on yet, John, but yes, go ahead again.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. 4 to 7. DPR office, Shoreham Place. We're just going to have all the windows open, and we're going to give everybody an opportunity to experience the beautiful office that we have with those lovely daylight and natural ventilation.
Yeah, this is my background here.
I love it. Yeah, come on by. Love to see you guys. DPR is so excited to be a platinum sponsor of the Green Building Council. So we definitely want to be able to keep conversations going and expand them everywhere we can. It looks like Colleen dropped the RSVP on the chat. So if you haven't done so yet, definitely do so, and look forward to seeing you all.
Yeah. Thanks again for giving up your lunch hour to listen to me. But yeah, I'm honored to share and be part of Sustainable Buildings Week. So enjoy the rest of the program.
Thank you. That was great.
Thank you, Celia. Appreciate it. Celia, I appreciate you doing this. And are you going to the happy hour on Friday?
Unfortunately, I'm out of town, so
Okay.
no. But yeah, hopefully we have future opportunities too, right? That we can meet in person, and yeah, certainly many more this year. But yeah, sad to miss it actually.
That's okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, the next time then.
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Thank you so
Take care.
much. Love it.
Bye.